do that again. Amazing. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Before we start, of course, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we live, create, and learn on today, paying respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We are, of course, back for part 2 with Kitiya Palaskas, craft-based designer. Kit, how are you doing today?
Hello, I am well. I am excited to be back. Can't wait to get crafting with you.
Amazing. Now, we do seem to have a little bit of an echo. Can you just double check? And I will quickly double check on my end.
I think it's the phone thing. I think it's just going to happen.
Phone. All right. We will press on. And what about turning down the volume on the phone, perhaps?
Yes, it's totally down, and I've turned it off on my computer.
There we go.
So I'm just hearing you out of my phone.
I see. We will continue with the good times. How about we just dive right into it and toss on the craft cam?
Yes, okay. So I'm going to jump into craft cam. You'll remember that I cut these little pieces out, and I was kind of talking about drawing with scissors, which is my method for, I guess, like illustrating using craft-based design. If you're new here today, just a quick recap. I'm a craft-based designer. I run a prop and installation design and illustration studio, specializing in using handmade techniques. So everything that I do is handcrafted, hand cut, hand pieced together. So I was explaining last time, as a quick recap, that I'm not very confident drawing things with a pen or a pencil, but I can cut anything with scissors. And so I call my illustration technique drawing with scissors, because all of the imagery and motifs that I create start off as hand cut shapes that are then put through a computer, digitized, vectorized, and turned into other formats that I can then use to create larger scale things, smaller scale things, multiples of things. So I don't have to cut, like 50 of these, for example. If I was making a bunch of gift cards or posters, I could just cut it once, scan it, digitize it, and then feed it into my Cricut cutting machine, which I'm going to show you how to use today, to create multiples of things, or to create, like other variations. So my processes are very analog at the start, and then they proceed through to digital. So last time I cut out these shapes, and I have since gone into Photoshop and Illustrator to prep them to turn them into vectors. And I'm going to today combine the vectors with other vectorized shapes that I've made to create a composition for a design that I'm then going to feed back through the machine, cut from paper again. Seems really roundabout and backward, but I promise it will make sense when I'm doing it. So these are what I've already cut. I might jump into Photoshop now, Johanna. I'll just jump across if you wanted to share my screen and let me know when you can see what I'm seeing.
Fantastic. Yes, we will do that. If we go like so, and like so. Yes, perfect. I will quickly just have to apologize. While you were talking a little bit, we did have some technical issues, but I think we have sorted it all out. One thing just to quickly check is if your Bluetooth headphones are connected. They might have disconnected when you put them in the cupboard. Possibly. So we'll probably just check that real quick. But if not, let's just soldier on and continue in Photoshop.
They seem connected. I'm not sure what's happening. Yeah, we'll just have to make do.
We will make do. Fantastic.
Okay, so basically what I did was I took a photo of this piece, which I showed you before, and I don't even need to scan it, because it's like really, we want to be quick about this. So I just put it into Photoshop and just get it ready and make it a little bit more, I guess, like vector friendly. Last time I cut these little segments out, and I sort of thought maybe I could go in, and I didn't want to have to hand cut all of them. So I thought maybe I could go into Photoshop and like do it today, but I've actually decided I don't want anything cut out of them. So basically what I'm going to do is just get rid of the background, so it's just a bit better. And also you'll have to bear with me. I had like such anxiety about coming on here because I was like, everyone's going to know that I don't use shortcuts, and like I have a really chaotic way of using Illustrator and Photoshop, but this is where we're at. So this is what I'm going to do. So just to make it obviously like way easier to vectorize, I'll just make it all black and then export it as a PNG. So
fantastic. No, it's the classic disclaimer whenever we have a guest on and they're using a program, they'll say like, okay, now this isn't the be all end all way to do this task, but this is how I've learned how to do it, and I feel like this is very similar.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be heaps of people that are just like, you could have done it this way, it would have taken you way longer, but here we are. So here's some vector shapes I've already prepared earlier. These are the ones that I kind of cut last time in the last live, and then these are a library of some other images that I have had for ages. So amazing. I like to just keep a catalog of everything so that I can refer to them and use them again and again in different projects. So then that kind of like translates my style across. So this thing opened up massive, but that's okay. I'm just going to trace this. And to get rid of this. All right, so there's my shape. Let's pop it in here so we can just be working with everything all together. And so at this stage, we can have a chat while I just go through and clean up this.
Fantastic. Awesome. And also going to say a quick hello to the chat as well. Hello, Bella. Lovely to see you again here tuning in for part 2. If anyone has any more questions about what we're doing in the process or just for Kit in general, throw them in the chat and we will get to them. So that's the chat either in Behance or on YouTube. We're looking at both and would love to hear what you want to know. Let's see. And how much time would you generally spend on cleaning up these shapes? Is it do it once and then it's done and you have that shape in your library, or is it like do it enough that it will sort of look good enough for the purposes that you need?
Yeah, I think it's that second one. If I was getting this laser cut, I think I mentioned it last time, but like the more points you have on something, the longer it takes for a machine to read and cut your file. So with laser cutting, for example, they charge by how complex the shape is and how long it takes. So how long the machine is actually like working for. So I would probably do a lot more deleting of points and a lot more smoothing out and cleaning up of this shape if it was going to be laser cut, just because I want to get my stuff cut like as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
But because we're just cutting it on my machine here, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna like clean it up a little bit. Also, I still want it to look handmade, so I don't want to get rid of like all the little sort of intricacies of this design, like the unevenness. I want it to still look like it's been chopped by hand. So yeah.
Because I was gonna ask if you were gonna get something laser cut, or if you were maybe perhaps even just short on time, whether you would use the pen tool in Illustrator to create this shape. But I fully understand that you'd much prefer to keep the handmadeness intact.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely use the pen tool, and I have before, but it's really interesting because my style that comes out of my hand when I use a mouse or a pen tool or a pen is different, looks different to how it does when I cut it with scissors. So the style changes, which is really weird.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, there's the phrase, the medium is the message. And I feel like depending on what medium you're using, subconsciously or not, it's going to impact the end result.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Okay, so look, I think I'm done with that. That'll do. We're not here for perfection, friends. We're just here for like color and a good time.
Yeah, good crafty times. We do have one more suggestion from Flynn just about the audio. Is that it could possibly be echo coming from your mic, so maybe shuffling it a little bit further away from the speakers when you get a chance.
Okay. Well, I mean, I wonder whether you could disconnect my craft cam while we're doing computer stuff, so that because it's
Yeah, that is what we have tried, and unfortunately that hasn't worked.
All right, just bear with me, guys. Let me check.
This is how you know it's live, everyone. So while we wait for Kit to reset the camera, let us know where you're tuning in from today. When did you last make a paper collage, for example? I would love to know. I actually have right next to me here a box full of scrap paper that is just perfect crafting material that I'm going to dive into after this stream, I think, to do a bit of a relax and collage. Let's see here.
Okay, friends, I don't know where we're at.
Let's see. Well, maybe we will try just saving the craft cam for a little bit later, and I will disconnect it for now, and we'll see if that improves. Let's see. So removing craft cam for now. Excellent.
I think it's gone. The problem is
and
the
that
craft
fixed
cam,
it.
friends.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? We can
craft
do
cam.
without it. I'll just turn my computer
can.
around. It's going to be very analog. But right now we are in Illustrator, so we're jumping back in. We're back on deck. Hope that you all could hear me, even though it was echoing earlier.
Yes, heard you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Okay, so now I'm in Illustrator. I have another shape. So last time I cut out like this little shape here, which I was going to use as a bit of like detail on my image. So you see how here I did like a bit of detail on the leaf, so it's not just just a vector cut out. So I'm going to multiply this and just use it as another shape in the design. So
awesome.
It looks really dinky, but I swear it has a purpose. Okay, so what did I cut out last time? I think I want to use this one, actually. Let's put this in. So I'm also using Creative Cloud libraries to store all of my image files. I find it really handy, especially if I'm jumping in between different programs. Like I use Adobe Express a lot. I'm an Adobe Express ambassador, so we do a lot of work, content work, and showing how to use Adobe Express to like do stuff for your business or your brand. So I'm always jumping between like creating motifs in Illustrator and popping them into Express. So that's how I find using Creative Cloud Library is really good for things like that. Also,
yeah,
let me know this one needs to be traced. Let me know how you do things, because like I just work on the open document like this, like just on the gray or like on a different artboard. I just kind of do everything in one place, kind of like it's a scrapbook, like a physical scrapbook. But I'd be interested to hear how other people create things in Illustrator. Like, what are your tips? Maybe there's a better way that I could like do it. And look, here I am again without my shortcut. Do not judge me.
No judgment here. Absolutely not. I'm also of the artboard is the sort of the proper canvas, right? And that's where I have the latest version of what I'm making, or that's like where the composition is. But similarly to you, everything that's in the gray, that's like my desk. So you would have your piece of paper that lies down the desk, on the desk, and then on the desk next to the paper, you'd have all these bits and scraps. And I mentioned while you were setting or adjusting the craft cam that I have a box here, you can see, of just paper cuttings and collage stuff
God,
ready
how
to go.
fun.
So I imagine, for me at least, and I sometimes try to incorporate it when I'm using Fresco or Photoshop as well, that I have a designated drawing area. And then sort of slightly to the side of it, I can do tests and scribbles and notes and things like that. So it's, a very analog way of working digitally is how I would explain my practice too.
Yeah, we're similar in that way. So, like, it's just a little bit of like added extra to this vector image, and I want everything to look very, I guess, like naive is the style that I would describe work as being. Like, I'm not trying to be realistic. I'm trying to be more of a stylistic rendition of a thing. And that also plays into my like inability to make any realistic anyway, so it's good.
Lean into your strengths.
I'm leaning into my childlike way of designing and drawing and things like that. But I just think like having something extra looks really nice also, because when you cut it out of paper, let's just say you were making like an actual paper artwork that's going to be a finished piece completely made out of paper, you can actually raise up these lighter shapes with like mounting tape or something like that, and it creates depth and texture and a bit of shadow in your design, so it's not just all flat. I really like doing that.
Absolutely. This is giving me memories of high school art, where I just discovered the little sort of the foam cushions that you could put on paper to create the different levels and all the Papercraft stuff. I was absolutely enamored by it. So I'm gonna have to see if I have any foam cushions lying around in my many craft boxes. But we did ask the chat if any of them have been doing any crafts lately. And Bella, who's tuning in from Brisbane, said that they last made some papercraft, I should say, yesterday morning. A little paper flower for my desk at work. That sounds absolutely wonderful.
I really want to see a picture of that, Bella.
Yes.
I don't know if you can add it to the chat
somewhere.
Or put it on Instagram and tag us, or send us a DM.
Yes.
So I'm just adding a bit of... Sorry, go for it.
Oh, no, you go.
And I was going to say, I'm just adding more detail to this, and then I'm going to compose a little image out of it, and then we're going to like see if we can cut this baby.
Fantastic. And I will just give you a heads up on time. Surprisingly, time has gone incredibly slow, which is uncommon for these streams. So we're just 20 minutes in. Just
great.
About.
Well, we can have more chats. I'll just keep playing around then, no problem.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we've got plenty of time to mess about with shapes and color.
Maybe I'll even compose. Oh no, we can't turn on craft cam, so maybe I won't.
We can turn it on. We might not enjoy the results. But you could, if you just secure everything in place, maybe then just lift it up to the kit cam.
The kit cam, perfect. So, okay, one other thing is I wanted all of your help today to decide what colors I should do, because yes, I'm doing them green in this, but I mean, I have like all sorts of different kinds of card that I could be using. So maybe we could do, I like to think of things like, it doesn't necessarily have to be super realistic or like matching the color. Maybe we could try these sort of organic, natural shapes, but in like really vivid, bright colors, and that could make something really cool.
That sounds amazing.
Also,
well, you had
this kind of style. Sorry, this kind of style being hand cut, like I could then go on and design maybe something that turns out to be a digital print on like on a tote bag or on something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to go back and become paper again, but the fact that it started off as paper means that my style, like I can be confident that my style will translate through to whatever output we happen to end up in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. All right, so
that what you said that yesterday really struck with me, in the sense that, because yes, I was the person that asked, I have a million feels like crafts and hobbies and things, and how do you bring them all together? And that could be, you know, doing traditional paper stuff or doing digital stuff, but even that just being two separate ones. And what unifies it all is the style.
Yeah,
I just thought
absolutely.
that bared repeating because that clicked something in my brain for me. So that was great, a great advice.
Oh, no worries. It just really like it really is good to remember that because you know, like we often stress, we can stress a lot about where we're going to head in life and like having to, you know, stick to just one thing. And I think that we shouldn't, because there's so much to explore in the world in creativity. So it's like, you know, we should be able to do that and just be experimental and try new things. So
I agree.
This is going to be like my paper, I guess. So when I cut this on my machine, I'm thinking that I will also get my machine to cut a piece of paper that is rounded like this and make it the backdrop for a little piece. What I'm thinking I might do for this particular project that I'm working on right now is create like a little wall hanging for my desk. And then I could make multiples of them because I am going to be using these designs and cutting them on a machine. And then I could sell them or something. So
genius. Well, actually, that brings us perfectly into a question, actually, from Flynn, I believe, which is, do you have to worry about structure when thinking about printing out this kind of work? I think...
What kind of print?
That's a very good question. I'm going to guess what Flynn is asking, is that do you have to worry about the composition or how you lay out the individual items when you print out this kind of work? So using the Cricut, how mindful do you have to be of where you place the individual items in your file?
So you'll see when I do use the Cricut that you don't have to worry so much about, they kind of like there's a special program that you feed everything through that is a Cricut program, and it makes things go everywhere. So it all gets messed up, but I like to always just compose as if I was composing the actual thing, so that when I do come back to reorganizing it, I know what composition I want it to be in, and I know like what the sizes are relative to each other. So it's more for like, you know, designing the look of the piece and getting the sizing right that I would be doing this right now. But when I put it in the machine, it's just going to go everywhere. And it cuts things. It cuts things like, so it'll group all the similar colors together, and so because you're cutting sheet by sheet, so it's going to cut one color at a time. So it's going to group everything together. So it's going to change it up anyway. But this is just for, like composition purposes. For me, planning out what I want it to look like. But if I was like doing a digital print, obviously it'd be a different story. And if I was using something like vinyl, let's just say, it would also be a different story because there's a transfer tape that you can get. So you could lock everything, and then if it was all one color, you could just cut it all in the exact composition that you wanted it to be, and then use the transfer tape and stick it on top and remove the whole thing in one go. But that's just for vinyl, because obviously the tape will stick to the paper and it will, But I really like that. I might make another one actually, since we're here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's make another. What does everybody think about this? I don't know.
I think it looks very cool. Like this. Yeah, like for me, it always helps too. If I feel like, okay, this is nice, I'm on the right track, I always will make a second one and just say, like, okay, how can I do everything in the exact opposite way of what I just did? And then you really have the sort of the polar examples, and you can find in between, like, oh, I like that, but I like that. And figure it out.
Play around with different options and stuff like that, you know? Why don't we try one that's like not natural colors?
Yes.
And so these colors here, these are just indicative colors, because obviously the colors of my card, when I cut it from paper again, are going to vary from this. But I just like to design it in color again for the compositional purposes, so that I can kind of get an idea of how everything's going to look. but you know, the colors may vary slightly just because of the nature of whatever material you're using. So
yeah, and it's great also, you know, to use that as a reference for, you know, contrast and value, that you have enough maybe that you have enough green in the piece, or that you have enough pink in the piece,
warm tones, cool tones, that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Just looking at chat. Yeah, no, very, very exciting. I'm definitely going to have to do some collage cutting out stuff myself after this stream. But I was just quickly looking at the chat.
And you obviously don't have to use a Cricut, obviously, if you don't have one. You can just do it by hand.
Absolutely. Oh, that reminds me of a question I want to ask you. But before that, I just wanted to shout out to Annika as well, who is joining us in the chat and actually has a question. So I'm going to ask her question first, and then I'll ask mine.
Okay.
Do you ever do Riso prints? Is the question.
I love Riso printing. I actually did a little while ago do some. It was for packaging, actually, for some handmade badges and pins and things and patches that I was making. So I actually designed some Riso prints that then got printed on card, and then I used the card for like the little toppers of my packets for my badges and that kind of thing. But I've never actually done a print, but that's actually something that I'm really interested in doing. I want to try to apply my style and my method to as many different I guess like outputs as possible. So I'm super keen to try any of that stuff. But I love the way that Riso printing looks. I think it's absolutely gorgeous.
I agree. And of course, I have forgotten the question that I was going to ask about. No worries. I have another. What's a medium that you've sort of not yet tried to, you know, create work with? Like, for example, would you consider doing like motion, like animating any of your sort of more paper cutout stuff, or maybe 3D is the next method on the frontier?
3D printing is definitely something that I'm really interested in. Like, I love I've seen some really cool things made 3D printed. Like, I've seen plant pots and other things. Like, in my creations, I really like to do stuff where the output is somewhat practical. So like, it's something that someone can use in their house, or it had, you know, a lot of my DIY projects that I do have a practical output at the end. I don't know. I'm really conscious of waste. So I want to create things that are usable, not like novelty or not just purely decorative, although I do acknowledge there is a place for purely decorative things, and those things are important. But yeah, so definitely 3D printing. I would love to like make my own toy, because, you know, I'm like, I love my collectibles and stuff. Like, I love my
yes.
3D printing. Also, I've seen people use it for like doll houses. So I like, or making miniatures, and I think that I could definitely make a lot of props for clients using 3D printing. I just need to get really into it. I think the main thing stopping me at the moment is just learning the technology.
Honestly, yes, that is me as well. I found that a midway point, which it's not quite there, but a midway point for me is actually just picking up clay. So sculpting with clay instead, because you still build a form, but with the air dry clay that I'm using, if I don't always break it down and reuse the clay.
So true. I was doing a little bit of claymation last year, and I really enjoyed that, because I do love the idea of animating my works for sure. So I think, like using plasticine and playing around with that was really enjoyable.
Amazing.
As you can see, while we've been talking, I've been changing my mind like constantly about what I want this to look like. But I think I like making it all warm toned is cool.
Yeah.
What does everybody think?
I really like that.
Make that a little. I'm just trying to think of, as I'm doing this, like what papers I have next to me, so that I'm
that's the thing.
Because sometimes you get disappointed because you're like, that looks beautiful, and then you go to your paper stash and you don't have any of the
It's
colors.
like, oh no.
Yeah.
No more blue paper.
Okay, so that's cool. I like that. What's our time check? I'm just wondering whether I should move on to the next phase.
Let's see, we have about 25 minutes, if I've done the maths correctly, and Flynn will correct me in our chat if that is wrong. I think that's right.
Maybe I'll cut some things out.
Ooh.
What do we think? Should we cut some things out, friends?
I think we should.
So I might what I might do is, let me just save this first. So if to use a digital cutting machine or a vinyl cutter, the file type is an SVG. So you can just save SVGs from Spinning Wheel of Death from Illustrator, just in here. And I'm just gonna do the pink one today.
Nice.
And we're just gonna make sure we've got the right artboard, which I think is 2.
Awesome.
I think this is going to work. Also, one thing to check, and I didn't check, so we're just going to have a quick look, is whether all of your paths are closed, because the machine won't be able to read it as a shape if there's an open path. I think that all of these are closed, but I guess we'll see, because it won't come up on the machine when we go to cut it if there's an open path, which is annoying, but yeah. And that I find that especially tricky with these shapes that have many, many, many points to the vector, because you have to go in and really look, because you might have deleted one and it might have deleted part of the path, but I don't know, we'll see. So I'm just going to open up. So this is Cricut Design Space. It's the design program that comes with all the Cricut machines. You can use it with any kind of SVG file. And you can also use it, there's a subscription that you can get, but, where did I save that? Oh, now I've forgotten where I saved it. All right, I'm going back. We're going back, friends. You can also use, the subscription, but you have to pay for that. So if you know how to design things in Illustrator, then you can just actually design your own stuff and you don't have to pay for anything, which is really cool.
Oh, there you go. I wasn't sure about that. Because I did hear about the subscription, and that was one of the reasons that made me hesitant about considering the machine.
You could just design your own stuff. Yeah. So you add it to your canvas. A little sneak peek of some upcoming work there, guys. So it opens it up like this. Looks like everything loaded in properly, which is a relief. It's obviously a lot bigger than the width of the cutting mat. So I'll show you in a minute that the cutting mat is 30 centimeters wide. So we're just going to pull everything in so that it's less than that. And then it pulls everything out per color. And I also like to, I already did this, but I like to go in and just check if different elements that are meant to be the same color actually are, because otherwise it'll start putting it on 2 different sheets thinking they're 2 different colors.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So you can see here on the right-hand side that everything has been just sorted out. So now we can go to this Make It button.
Make it!
And there's all these options. I'm going to choose this one just because this is what I've got available. So now see how it separated everything into its...
wow, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I might just reduce... Let me cancel that. I want to make this really easy to show you, and I don't want to have to change mats. So we're going to make things a bit smaller. Because you can get long mats as well, but I just want to use what I've got in front of me. Okay, so here we go. What I might do now is... hop off this and back onto KitCam, and maybe I'll just steer my my computer screen over so that you can see this machine.
Well, what we could do and just try is if you put the craft cam back on again, that when you connect it, that you mute the mic, so silent. Put your phone into silent mode, and I think that might do it.
Yeah, okay, so it's in silent mode.
Excellent.
Let's just give it a go.
I believe in you, Craft Cam.
I believe in you too. The mic's off. Yeah, it's just doing it.
Let's see, and I mute it there. And like so. Let's see. We pop that up. Look at you, little buddy.
Can you see that?
See. Can see the Craft Cam.
Can you hear?
We can, unfortunately. So how about when we use the Craft Cam, we'll use it intentionally. So use it to show what it's cutting, and then we'll go back into Kit Cam focus.
Okay, so can you see that? I'm just going to hold this in my hand. So that's the machine.
Nice. Let's see. I'm going to change things up a little bit. There we go.
So this is the machine. I'm just going to pop a piece of card onto this mat and then show you how to cut it. So I'll just pop this down. You could probably turn me off. I don't know.
Let's see.
We're really doing this on the fly, guys.
The wonders of a live stream. And Flynn was also just saying trust in Craft Cam, and suggesting when we were talking about 3D printing that you should make a kit bobblehead, which I agree with 100%. And I'm now manifesting for that to happen because that sounds great.
I'm going to do it. All right, so this is sticky. So I've just stuck paper on it, right? Now I'm going to go up here, really doing some on-the-fly stuff here today.
Amazing.
I'm going to connect to my machine. All right, it's ready to go. And then you choose what material you want. So there's like a card version, so I'm choosing that. And now it's ready to go. So back over here.
Wow, and it's that easy.
Put that in, press. I'm doing this one-handed.
That's how all the pros do it, of course.
Yeah. So it's loading up.
And is it now just mapping out the area, knowing where everything is?
Reading the size of my piece of card, and then when that flashes, you just press play.
Oh wow, look at it go!
Zoom in for you.
Oh! Fascinating. While we're watching this mesmerizing Craft Cam, if anyone has any more questions for Kit today, do let us know. We are very sadly nearing the end of the stream. Not quite, but soon. So if you have any last minute questions, pop them in the chat and we will get to them. But yeah, this insight into a Cricut actually works is really, really cool. Bella was saying that they are definitely considering looking into getting a Cricut, and to be honest, so am I. But that actually brings me to a question that I mentioned briefly before we started streaming, but I'll ask it now. How do you decide when it's time to upgrade equipment or invest in equipment that might make your job easier or might just be like a cool new thing?
That's a really great question. I think you could probably, I can probably go back into KitCam now and just show you the rest of this like on KitCam, so you can turn off CraftCam if you want. Excellent. But you guys see how that works. So that's all cutting out, and I'll show you what it looks like back on this cam.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. And I'll answer that question. Okay, so
Amazing.
I'm going to jump off sharing my screen now, Johanna, and I'll go into back into normal cam. Whoa. Tell me when you're ready.
There we go. And ready.
Hello, we're back with this. Before I answer your question, I'll just show you like it pulls away. So it's so good being digitized because it means that I can get it looking like exactly like, you know, my original. And it means that I don't have to recut. Like, I mean, I did cut that shape from paper originally, but I could resize it, scale it up, scale it down, and it would still look exactly the same. And that's why the digitization process, as much as it is an extra step, is really helpful, because I can then, play around with scale. I could turn these paper cuts into a mural because I've now vectorized everything. So it's just able to be applied to all sorts of different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of future-proofs the asset, really, that you made.
Yeah. So while I'm like playing around with that and cutting out, I'll answer your question. So I think that if you're getting to the stage where you are spending too much time, and that's sort of dependent on what you think time, like what too much time means to you, doing things in like the old way, and you know that there's a machine or a piece of equipment out there that's going to speed up your process, make it a lot easier for you, and actually make you be able to produce more or quicker, so that it improves your workflow and helps you get more clients or get more work or scale your projects larger, that's when it's a good time to invest. Like, for example, for me, I was getting all these commissions to create, like, for example, hundreds of piñatas, right? And they had like, components on them that were cut out pieces of paper. And at first I was doing all of that by hand, and it was taking me so long. Therefore, I was having to charge so much money and losing out on a lot of work, because clients were like, it's going to take you 40 days to make 50 piñatas. So I heard about the Cricut, for example, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll invest in one. And it cut down my production time, so I could create 50 piñatas in like 4 days.
Wow.
Which means that it's just like anything that you sort of like, I want to say machinize, but I know that's not a word. But like use a machine for it just makes it faster. And it took a lot psychologically to let go of the fact that it wasn't going to be 100% made by hand, but the original thing always is, but it just helps you to be a more efficient maker. So yeah, I think that, like I try not to follow tech fads, and like I don't feel it necessary to get every single new tool and machine on the market, but I do do a lot of research and figure out things that are actually worth my while and worth my money, and then it
absolutely.
Yes, don't be afraid to invest.
Oh goodness. No, it's true. I was just reminiscing as well, just the fear of something new, or fear of change in the way that, if I don't physically make everything myself, or if I don't push all the buttons, then how do I know that it gets done right? Or like, how do I feel like it's still my thing?
I know there is that thing, but also like, also by the way, I'm loading up my second color. I'm just going to pop it in. It's going to do the exact same thing, and then I'm going to show you.
Excellent.
But also, if you are happy staying sort of at the level that you're at currently, and not like, there are a lot of people out there that I know and I really admire them, who want to keep things small in their business. Maybe you don't need to invest in machines to make things faster, because you are a limited capacity business and that's your speciality and your niche. But for me, I have large scale dreams, and I want to push myself and grow and push the boundaries of craft as far as they'll go. So for me, I do require help, because I am one person. I do require things that'll help me produce more, or be able to scale up, do bigger, more ambitious things. And so that's why I am scaling, but some people don't need to.
No, for sure. I had the phrase in my mind, like, maximum craft, most piñatas. That the sort of more is more. Just do all of it, and of course a Cricut or equivalent machine would just make that work actually sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw a question come up in the chat. Any tips for which Cricut to purchase?
Excellent. I must have missed that one.
Basically, the one that I've got is the Cricut Maker, just for those interested. I know it's not an Adobe product, but it does everything. It cuts like wood, fabric, paper, vinyl, tissue. everything. So if you want an all-rounder, then that's what I would go for. Yeah.
Excellent.
Also, I find it's the most compatible with like files that I've created in Illustrator and Photoshop and stuff, like SPGs. Because it's the most like modern of the tech of all of them. So yeah.
There you go. And or Flynn will beat me to it, just post a link to the Cricut website as well in the chat. And thanks for that great question. We do have one, because we have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to say that this will be our last question from the chat, I think. Once again from Bella. Thank you, Bella, for your excellent questions today.
Bella, you legend.
Exactly. Have you considered putting a little face on your Cricut?
Oh my gosh, yes, Bella. I actually want to get some googly eyes and stick them on all of my machines, because googly eyes make so much more fun. Actually, funny anecdote, I was on a plane heading to North Queensland last week, and you know, I'm like a craft-based designer. I don't know how many of those were on the plane, but I looked in my seat pocket and there was a googly eye in the seat pocket, and I feel like that was like the crafting gods being like, have a great trip. Because I mean, of all the seats to find a googly eye, the crafter got the seat with the googly eye, and I thought that was
incredible.
Yeah,
incredible. Wowza, I'm just what a great day. We
Can I just quickly share with you before I just wanted to share some tips for if you are doing paper collage. So like, here's like a sort of, this is actually quite, I mean, I know I showed this at the beginning, but this is actually quite similar to what I was thinking of creating here today. And this is what I've been cutting all the components for. I'm actually going to stick a piece of dowel here and create 2 little loop tabs so that I can hang it like a wall hanging. And then I could make multiples of those, obviously, with the machine, cutting it out to sell. But I just wanted to show what I usually use. So double-sided tape is what I would usually use to stick things down. It's way less messy than glue, and you don't get the glue residue. I do have a glue stick just in case I ever need, like, there are things that are maybe too small for the double-sided tape. And there's also mounting tape, which is slightly raised. And that's what you would use to create like a bit of the texture and the shadow. That
Oh yeah, that's the puffy, the puffy.
Yeah,
tape.
the puffy stuff. Yeah. So you can cut little bits of that and put it behind. So like, let's just say I wanted those like raised details that I was cutting out before, like these little pieces here, and I wanted to stick them on there, but I wanted them to be raised. I would use a little bit of strip of mounting tape behind. Just to put that there.
Right. Yeah. Fantastic. That is great.
Do you have to create your Illustrator files on a desktop, or does it work from iPad to Cricut? There is an actual iPad app for the Cricut thing. So for the Cricut program. So you can actually do it all on an iPad. And I think you can save, if you're using Procreate or other things, or Fresco or those kinds of things, you can save as an SVG on those, or you can get Illustrator for the iPad or Photoshop for the iPad and save as an SVG, and then just load it straight into the app on your
They've thought of everything.
Yeah, they've made it really easy for you.
That is great. And sort of, I had a question and I forgot it. That's fine. So what then? We've went from Illustrator and then cutting out these pieces with the Cricut, and now is it assembly stage, and are you going to assemble it first exactly like you have in Illustrator and then maybe try different compositions after that, or are you going to pretty much stick to the composition you made in Illustrator?
So I'll have my Illustrator file open as a reference so I can see, and then I'll just place everything down. I usually just place things down. If I need to, I might blue tack them down just to kind of hold it up to things and see and decide what composition is best, because sometimes it changes a little bit based on what I did digitally to how it feels on the paper. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll just go in usually from the top layers down. So I'll do all the details first, because it makes sense to do that. Once all the details are stuck on, I'll then stick the motif onto the backing, and then I'll create the hanger or whatever it is to hang it, or I'll frame it or whatever. But yeah, first of all, I'll just sort of do a bit of placement on the paper.
Mm.
I changed my mind a lot, so like it's good to just test things out first.
Yeah, and you know, it's great to also have like a bit of a prototyping aspect at every level of creation, where you can always iterate and just like, oh well, I didn't really like that, so I'm just gonna change it up and do something different.
Yeah, and that's why I think like creating a digital vectorized mock-up or sketch first in Illustrator is handy, because you can do a lot of that iteration and design planning like on the screen, so that when you are finally ready to cut things or create a physical version of them, there you've already planned everything out, and it's just a matter of cutting and making, or cutting and sticking.
Excellent. Well, we are right at about time. I was going to ask you, you have something pretty exciting coming up on the 30th, I believe. Do you want to chat about that for perhaps a minute before we sign off?
So I have, I'm hosting an online masterclass and group coaching session. It's called DIY Dream Job, Intro to Craft as a Career. And it's for anyone really, designers and makers, both, one or the other, who are interested in monetizing their handmade skills and forging a really niche and unique career path for yourself, using your craft skills or craft-based design. And so I'm going to go through a little bit about my journey into this career, how I, strategically how I built it, and share a lot of practical steps and tips about how you can actually form your own, I guess, like DIY dream job in the craft industry, and all the different career paths that there are for makers in the overall design industry. And so because it's group coaching, it's also a place to bring your questions to really get, peer feedback and feedback from me about how you can start to actually take those steps to forge that career for yourself. So it's online, and there'll be like a recording for anyone that is in a different time zone that can't make it at the end.
Spectacular.
So, I think you shared a link. You shared a link to that.
Yes, there is a link in the description of this, and Flynn also posted a link in the chat on Behance. Now, that does take us to time. Before we go, though, of course, I want to say thank you so much for joining us and taking us on this wonderful craft adventure, through tech issues, through different types of paper. I had a great time, so thank you. And before we leave off, where can people find out more about your work online?
Sure. Well, you can head to my website, kitiyapalaskas.com, or if you want to just jump on Instagram or TikTok, even YouTube, I'm just at Kitiya Palaskas, and you can, link through to all my different things from those platforms too.
Fantastic. That brings us to the end. Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be back next week with more illustration, more fun. But in the meantime, have a wonderful day and maybe do some collage crafting.
Thanks for having me. Bye everyone.
Bye.